Hello to you wherever you're watching from. Welcome to DW Africa's The 77%, which is home to Africa's youth. We're here to get to know more about a personality who's been described by some as a genius at what he does. David Moinina Sengeh is the youngest ever Minister of Education in Sierra Leone. Welcome to the 77%, sir. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's definitely good to have you. Now, you're like a coat of many colors. You're a minister, you're a chief innovation officer, and you also design prosthetic devices. Plus, also, apparently, you make time for music. I mean, how do you juggle all of these?
I it's just me. I feel like nothing really has changed. I like to learn a lot and I like to play a lot and I like to think and solve problems a lot. So then I'm always collaborating with good people. It's also about finding good energy and collaborating with people who you enjoy hanging out with. And if you combine that curiosity with play and an interest to solve problems without thinking about it, you probably will be doing one too many things for in the opinion of many other people. But for me, it really is just fun. I'm just enjoying the things that I'm doing.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean, there's nothing better than enjoying what you do because otherwise it becomes extra tedious, right? Now, actually on the prosthetics, what drove you into designing prosthetics?
So I did this for my PhD, and it was a couple things. One, Sierra Leone clearly had the history of violence, and there were lots of amputees who were there. And I remember before I started my undergrad, before my first year in college, I already was thinking about this. I used to think I wanted to be a medical doctor, but then I really liked the engineering side of healthcare, so prosthetics was that sweet spot. But the real question was there was an opportunity to answer a question that was universal and it was driven by research. And that was, how do you design comfortable interfaces for the human body? It was a question that I didn't understand why globally my professor, who was an MIT professor, was still in pain. And you had people in Sierra Leone, it didn't matter where you were in the world. If you had a limb amputation, you were not comfortable. And so I wanted to understand it from a scientific point of view, and it was an interesting question to answer.
Now I can understand why people call you a genius. You know, it's been the way you're describing all of this. Now I have to say you have an enviable CV. You're a Harvard University graduate. Now many are wondering why you left your big money position at IBM Africa to serve your country when you were called upon in 2018. I mean, try to get people to understand. And do you regret that decision?
I love it every day. I wake up thinking about work, go to bed thinking about work, service. I come from a family of service, and I really love service. My grandfather was worked in every district. My father was a teacher. My mom worked in the Ministry of Education, actually, as a clerk, as a typist. So she was a typist for many years. I think probably the only place she worked. And for me, I met President Bio before he was campaigning in London, and we had a long conversation about service and about his plans for the country. And so when he won, and he asked me to come and join and with leading on the innovation front, I didn't think about it. It was a perfect opportunity. And I'd always, even though I'd left to go to the US for college and grad school, I always came back home. I was always home doing stuff with youth innovation and entrepreneurship and technology and education. So it's a continuation of a journey. It was never. Maybe, I the other day I was discussing it with my wife that maybe I'm 10 years early if you're just thinking about it. Maybe in 10 years from now I will be doing this stuff, but it doesn't matter. I was prepared and excited to do it now,
Okay.
and I'm grateful for the opportunity that the president gave to me.
Okay, we're gonna get into how it's been going so far, the challenges you've been facing, and all. But I want to address this first because this picture went viral. There was a picture of you carrying your baby girl on your back during an online meeting. It went viral on social media platforms. It was cute, personally, just to you. I mean, what message really were you trying to convey?
It was just fun, just a message by itself that here's a cute photo. We're all digital and we share photos. It was the cuteness of it that made me share it, and there was the element of everybody was participating in these online Zoom meetings, and people share their memes around, and so I was asking, but then. For me as a leader, it was also that leaders usually aren't seen as empathetic or as a male leader, particularly. And there was then the message of when I engaged BBC on it was to say that, look, if it was my wife, it wouldn't make a news. So all the several conversation and discussion points that have been linked to it what was not really my intention, but I am grateful that people have engaged on it to talk about family life, equity at home, the role of leaders in home, the role of men in home. It's been really tremendously exciting, both locally and globally, to see people discuss and debate about gender equity in the home.
Now, I think rightfully so, the issue of gender equity at home was one of the major ones that came out of it because, it shows that, so to speak, traditional roles that have been given to women, it's not just that. Men can also fill these roles and actually do it with pride. Now, according to the UN, gender inequality and denial of women's rights are still prevalent at all levels in Sierra Leonean society. Now, that's not very different from many other African countries, if you ask me. How can this
Are really
change, though?
global countries.
Yeah.
Globally, I mean, globally,
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether
How
it's the
can this
US,
change though?
Europe. I think the change will come from each individual. Well, so there's a individual level and there's a systemic change. When we want to transform society, it has to happen both locally and globally. Individually, it's that we can be examples, we can do the right thing at home. It's look, I am generally on these calls, so I'm working at the office, so I'm not often at home. But whenever I'm home, um, I should be able to contribute and support the care providers who are at home. If we all make that commitment every day, every weekend, every time, it begins to change because then our daughters grew up seeing not it's a stereotype. We need to break the stereotype at the family level such that our daughters and sons see that what they inculcate in their mind or what we all grew up inculcating isn't what's expected, right? So
Yeah.
we need to change that.
Yeah.
At the institutional level, it's that um, I'm quarantined at home, and one I've been having all these work meetings virtually as well, and I'll be and I pick up my daughter. I tell them, look, my daughter is going to wake up. Um, and they understand. And if she wakes up, she comes and sits next to me and I continue the conversation. So it's normalized. As leaders, as people who make policy decisions, we have to make it okay for family to be brought into our lives because it's
Yeah.
not either or.
Okay. Now
And some
let's
of
think.
that is sorry, some of that can be regulation changes, some of that is policy, but most of it, I think, at institutions, it's just leadership and everybody agreeing that we should change the culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, let's stick with your daughters because somehow now everybody knows about your daughters. I mean, they're on social media. You proudly, should I say, flaunt them. So, in a letter to your daughters, you said many will try to sabotage you and wish you fail in your role as education minister. Why would you think that? And have you actually experienced this?
Yeah, it's just politics. It's sad, unfortunately. People I think, I mean, I don't do it for them, right? So I think I do it for the kids. I do it for not just my kids. Everything I do is for the kids, for the future generation. And there are people whose goals are different, just because they are not in power or in government. Everything somebody does is wrong and incorrect. And if so, if you think about me trying to have a cleaning up the system, right? So one of the things that we've done is digitize teacher payroll with the Teaching Service Commission and said everybody should come and verify and validate their identities because we want to address that problem of ghost teachers. And we're also digitizing all school counts and automating. So a lot of my work is on automation. If somebody used to get an extra cut there, they are personally and directly affected by those policy changes. And they will have to not be happy with you. And so it is that my conscience and my principles and morals remain the same. And it is for the future of the children. It is for in education. It is for focusing on the learning outcomes. It is the safety and well-being of teachers and children. It is improving the quality of literacy, numeracy, and changing what education looks like. And that's what optimizes. That's what I'm optimizing for. So if somebody has an issue with it, it's okay. I will listen and I'll use those questions to hopefully develop a better and more robust and more resilient policy.
Could your morals ever be affected? Could you ever be drawn to the dark side, you think?
I don't know what the dark side is, but I do enjoy, I do get, because I am online and I'm accessible, I'm way more accessible to citizens than, say, other of my colleagues. And so I do get to see these vicious sides, these comments, these negative energy. And every now and then, the other day I was on Facebook, and people, like, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. Somebody will come with some random stuff that is just not true, or just and I was responding to each one of them with peace and love, like blessings, have a wonderful day. And that did not go very well with the people who were there. And it was just more like, I'm not gonna go down a negative energy path with somebody. If you come with negative, dark energy, I'll tell you, peace and love. God loves you. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, that sounds quite annoying to those that really want to get at you. But I think I'm definitely going to be using that peace and love to all the haters out there. But unfortunately, the thing is, some people like to judge a book by its cover, right? Especially in your case, having dreadlocks, in most parts of Africa, that almost becomes an issue. What has been your experience with this while discharging your duties?
I think there are generational elements to it. There are young people who have decided that, and by the way, this is also part of the institutional self-hate and institutional almost colonial thinking about doubting what you are and who you are and how you are. And so the fact that I have dreadlocks, which never comes up with my boss, which has never been a question with my boss at all. But the fact that many people think, you're a bad example, or some people think you're a bad example, I try to engage them to question why they believe that. If it's because of a religion, well, which part of the religion? If it's because of culture, well, which culture are you talking about? How does that compare with the other things that you find okay? If it is because, so it's that I live my life freely. And so I try to, so the clothes that I design, the music that I make, the writings that I do are all authentically me and are all just fully me. And if somebody questions it, it's not about me, it's about them. So I don't really worry so much about how people judge, because I do what the things are that I want to do, that I believe are the right things, and I enjoy them. I don't get bothered by there's a part. So I have a new album coming out, and there's a track there called Free. But there's a line in there that was like, "Them hate is back, give me penicillin." And I think it really is that we just have to take penicillin and we have to not worry about the hate.
Well, now I'm definitely looking forward to this track and to that album, to definitely check out what kind of songs you do and what it's all about. I guess there should be a track on it that says peace and love, no?
There, it's the album. I've not really discussed it publicly, but I think we're just in the part. But the album is called Love Notes to Sierra Leone, Love Notes to Salo, and so there is love in there.
Okay.
It is the titles of the tracks. There's a track called Nyabondesia, which means, and that one is coming out on July 3rd. It means my people, and it's about really let's love each other.
Okay.
Exactly. And there's a one called Free, which is about freedom and being free.
Yeah.
And it says like, actually, it's interesting to the question that you asked, because in Free, there's a lyrics there that's like, I do this for me, I do this for her, I do this for the people who can never do this. And it really is about self-expression.
Now that's cool. Now, so as one of the youngest ministers, and like we said earlier, you're the youngest education minister in Sierra Leone. What challenge have you encountered? Because you also mentioned generational changes, right? What challenge have you encountered as a young African explaining technological development to your older colleagues in government?
See, so there are many, but I'm lucky in a way because I feel protected as well by the team of people who I work with. The cabinet is actually quite fantastic, and I learn a lot. One of the people who I learn from the most is the president. He's a great mentor and somebody who's ahead of his time. And so I get that support from him. I think the biggest challenge was, and I engaged this with my coach on it, was I have lots of uncles who say my son, my nephew, and I feel like I used to personalize when somebody wants to have a policy conversation with me and they say my son, and I was like, no, just engage with me on the ideas. Don't I and I felt like if they called me my son, it was such that then whatever they were asking for, I kind of have to say yes, right? I kind of,
Yeah.
but then but I ultimately, it's like you can call me whatever. If you call me your son and I hear you say David or Moinina or Mr. Minister, it doesn't matter what you call me. And once I remove um, that I guess fear or misinterpretation, because this was about me, not about them. Once I removed that, then it didn't. The things they were talking about were just as respectful as if they called me Mr. Minister or if they called me Honorable Minister or Doctor. So it didn't matter. And so then I actually grew to love that they call me my son or my nephew.
Okay. On that note, my brother from another mother, you have the vision of digitalizing your country. How important is digitalization to Africa today?
We don't have a choice. It is the future. It is the now. I think one of the things that's become apparent during this COVID era is our systems and institutions have to change. They must change today. So if you think about education and learning, we knew that the education system required a transformation. The jobs that people have today does not match the skill sets that workers have. We know that literacy and numeracy numbers are still low. The out of school numbers have not changed much. It's flattening actually. So out of school, then we had to solve that. We had to think about it differently. And parts of that is then looking at what we call hybrid systems. So in Sierra Leone, we have the National Innovation and Digital Strategy. So I'm the CIO, as you mentioned, and DSTI, the Directorate of Science, Technology and Innovation, had launched, the president launched the National Innovation and Digital Strategy called Digitalization for All. And one of the principles there is mobile technology and hybrid technology. That means things have to work paper to mobile to radio to online, offline, power, no power. All the solutions have to work.
It is the way forward. It is the way forward for sure. Now, before we let you go, here are some quick fiery questions to you. Just getting a bit more up close and personal. Are you ready?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. What's your favorite football team?
Man United. And
really?
Power Rangers in Bo, which is where I was born in Sierra Leone. So Power Rangers and Man United.
Yeah, with the whole Man United thing, I was beginning to like you, but now I'm not really too sure. Okay, we'll see.
But by the way, the Man United one I loved from '99 because I was listening to the radio during the Champions League and when they equalized and the radio fell and then it's like, oh my god! And by the time the radio came on, So I love it.
Okay, that's an interesting way to start laughing at football team. Also, Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo. It's tough. It's tough. I do like, but I mean, I love Messi, but I think if I choose Ronaldo.
Okay. What's your favorite song? Not your song, any other song. What's your favorite kind of song?
Coldplay. I love
Oh,
Magic. And
okay.
Green Eyes. I play the guitar, and Green Eyes is one of my everyday go play song. But Coldplay is amazing.
Okay, okay. That's interesting to know. What's your favorite food? You seem like a man like me who likes a lot of food.
Um, Something with shrimp recently. I mean, I do like jollof. And the other day I asked for them to make some oyster shrimp one pot, which was quite delicious.
I shouldn't have asked you that question because now I'm salivating at the thought of what you ate recently. But yeah, definitely, you have some good taste. But that's good to know these sides. Now you mentioned jollof. You know the whole jollof debate going on. Let's put
Yeah,
aside
but I
Sierra
think
Leone.
the last time they spoke about it, I think the Sierra Leone jollof may have won in some
Oh no, not
something that
really,
I heard.
not
But
really. It
as you
was it
said,
was more like the
let's
Ghana
forget the
jollof.
Sierra Leone jollof. Let's forget.
Let's forget the Sierra Leone.
I
Ghana
think
jollof or
yes,
Nigeria jollof.
Ghana.
Oh, now I like you again. Just to be clear. Wow, that's nice to know. We sometimes ask these questions just because people may not know some other interesting sides of you, and it's really nice. Thank you very much for your time, David Moinina Sengeh, Education Minister of Sierra Leone. It's been a pleasure. Before you go, final words to the young people tuned into the 77 show right now.
They like to say the future of Africa is in the youth. I disagree. The now of Africa is in the youth. And the
Mm-hmm.
now of Africa is in the youth in every shape and form, whether you are male, and in particular if you're female, whether you are urban or rural, whether you are a scientist or a creative soul, whether you're a writer or a sports star, our expectation is that we have to transform Sierra Leone. We as the youth, we are the problem solvers, we are the entrepreneurs. There's nobody who's coming to save us. It's us. So let's look within and get it done.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sarah, for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, thanks to you, all our viewers, for joining this chat. I hope we all had a good time and learned a thing or two. He's a Manchester United fan. Nothing exciting about that. But okay, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more of such content from the rest of the team and myself. It's